Okay, we are definitely recording.
Yahoo!
Yahoo! And all my audio levels look good. Beautiful. All right, here we go. Oh well. So much for that. Not a great fade, but that's all right. Welcome in, everybody. It is Tuesday, February 15th. It is season 5, episode number 25 overall, episode 78. I am your host, Panic Man Walters, and with me I have my good buddy Jack. Jack, how are we doing?
We're doing sad because football is done now for the rest of the year, and it makes me unhappy.
Oh, I feel exactly the same exact way. You, you know how I feel, really?
How do you feel?
Didn't. I think I'm pretty sure the stream heard it, but I don't know if you did. But
Nope.
That's all right.
Did not. That's okay. I agree or disagree depending on what you think.
Well, let's try it again.
I heard it that time.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Perfect.
That's just inner monologue.
Yeah. So very sad that football's over, but I am happy that we did have I think we had a really good Super Bowl, to be honest with you. So not sure how you feel about all that, but I thought the Super Bowl was great. What were your thoughts on the Super Bowl?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, coming into the game, I just wanted it to at least be exciting and close, not just, a blowout or something that was over in the second quarter. It definitely was. There was a lot of back and forth. It was a tighter game throughout than I think most people expected. It was a lower scoring game. I kind of mentioned it was going to be a defensive struggle, or not struggle, I should say, but wasn't going to be any game that the offenses were just blowing the roof off the place. Like I said, both teams would likely score 30 points or less than 30 points. And actually, if you go back and listen to our podcast from last week, it was at like the 53-minute mark or something. I literally started out my guess with being like, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being like a 23-20 game or something like that. And wouldn't you know it, the score was 23-20.
Yeah, that's that's really good. I did go back and listen to that, and you were dead on. It was 23-20. I think a lot of people, for me, I think a lot of people really thought that were these really the best two teams in football, and we'll get into that here shortly. But you know, that was one of the things that I was kind of seeing on Twitter. I think even one of the I don't know if it was a play-by-play guy. I don't know if it was Collinsworth or if it was Al Michaels who was saying, are these really the best two teams here? And I just kind of shook my head in disbelief, but we'll get into all that here shortly. We do have a few announcements that I just want to get into. If you guys are unsure of what you guys are listening to currently or watching, this is the Victorious P.O.D. We are a fantasy football podcast and a live stream. Again, I am your host, Panic Man Walters, and with me is my good buddy Jack. We are here on Twitch. You can find us on Twitch at Panic Man Walters and Jack W Vickers 740. So give us a follow on there, please. If you have donated to our stream, we thank you very much. All of your guys' help has made this not only possible, but we can keep, with your guys' help, we can keep expanding and growing to make this a much better production for you guys. To anybody who has seen all of our artwork on our social media pages and here on this live stream, you can thank Levi Oki. He is responsible for this beautiful artwork, and you can find him on Instagram at Levi Oki Illustration. Go follow him, check him out, and you can see some of his artwork. Jack, are we doing that next one still that we have there? Do we still want to?
Yeah, I'm just going to shout them out quick, like a 10-second thing each week, and they're going to do the same thing just for us. So for any of you guys that didn't hear last week, we were shouting out another good friend of the podcast with their own podcast, Minnesota Sports Live. You can find them on Facebook primarily. They go live streaming on Facebook and do weekly episodes just focusing on more Minnesota sports topical stuff. So not necessarily just NFL heavy focus like us, and not anything fantasy football related. They did just do a Super Bowl special this past Sunday. So go listen to them for some of their takes, see how right or wrong they were, and check them out, give them a like, give them a follow. And yeah.
Right on. Yeah, check out Minnesota. And I hope that we can hook up with these guys and we can have some off-season discussion. I think it'd be a ton of fun to check those guys out. One last announcement before we get rolling on here. If you're looking to get a hold of us, if you want to check out our social media pages, anything like that, that's all going to be within the show notes. Please, the show notes will be updated exactly after this broadcast, and they will be on the YouTube description as well, and the YouTube will be uploaded immediately after this podcast is over with. Jack, do we have anything else to announce before we get this thing going?
I think that is all our mini news announcements and updates.
Okay, perfect. All right, so, excuse me, I need to get a drink of water here. Holy cow.
What are they selling? Chocolates.
My little boy voice is just not cooperating today.
That sounded like your 80-year-old smoker's voice. I wasn't sure what the hell was. Shout out to kids at home.
Oh man.
Don't smoke.
Don't do drugs. Well, I don't.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. We just derailed. We will edit none of that out.
Wouldn't be the show. Wouldn't be the show without it. Yeah, we don't edit out our mistakes. You gotta just roll with it.
Correct. All right. We are getting into our second season here real quick, and just to kind of go over some of the scores that we had here. real quick. It's going to be, I mean, super quick. We're not going to be talking about a lot of this. None of the quarterbacks played in the Super Bowl, as you guys can see. And with our running backs, we only had one running back who was still on a roster at the time of Super Bowl. So that was Foster and Garlic. Joe Mixon having himself a decent day, 14.04 fantasy points. So that's not bad. Not bad at all. So anything to mention here, Jack, or are we just gonna roll through? Why can't I hear him? Oh crap. Hold on.
There we go.
Oh,
there we go. We're good.
You were muted. It was on you. Okay, not
yeah.
me.
Yeah, dogs barking, trying not to have people lose their hearing. All I would say about that, and we'll get into the game breakdown in a bit, but just Mixon, definitely a better daily fantasy game than I would have expected him to have. So 14 points, more than you can typically ask for going up against the Rams.
Yes. Yeah. So, very good performance, to be honest with you. I mean, with the Rams front four, and we'll get more into it, but absolutely, Mixon did a fantastic job. Moving on to our next slide here, we're going to be talking about little Cooper Kupp, who wasn't so little, and Jamar Chase, who I don't know if I would say he underperformed, speaking of Jamar Chase, but for the coverage that he was getting, I think his fantasy output was pretty decent on the day, especially during a big spot game like the Super Bowl, 11.8 points. Not too bad. But Cooper Kupp, again, has just shown us why he deserved to be the number one wide receiver all season long in fantasy football, scoring a massive 25.9 points. Jack, what are your thoughts on any of these two wide receivers?
So I'm going to start with the MVP of arguably fantasy and definitely the MVP of the Super Bowl with Cooper Kupp. Little stat to hit you with. I saw this on Twitter over the weekend. This is just absurd. Before this game, Jerry Rice was the only player in history to, lead the league in like the Triple Crown, to win Offensive Player of the Year and to win Super Bowl MVP in an entire career. To do those three things, like every season they played, to have done those three things at least at different points, not necessarily in the same season. Cooper Kupp just did all of that in 1 year. So this, I mean, arguably is going down as one of the top just NFL seasons for a career or for a receiver of all time. I think just him leading in receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, doing what he did consistently. And then to have that stretch over the playoffs where he was, whether it was big yardage or key touchdowns, like just dominating the way he has. I don't think people are realizing how good that is. I mean, for Jerry Rice to have been the only one to have ever done all three of those things over multiple seasons was surprising to me. So the fact that Cooper Kupp was like, yep, I'm done too, but it only took me one season. It's just cannot be stated enough how amazing that is. So big shout out to him. And then I don't know if you have any thoughts on Kupp too before we jump into Chase, but I'll let you weigh in on that thought.
We're definitely going to get more into it as our offseason progresses, but Cooper Kupp is going to be the number one wide receiver off the board this year, right?
I think there could be a little bit of a shakeup depending on what happens with the whole Rodgers and Packers situation with Devontae. I could still see some people taking him 1 and Cooper Kupp 2, just because maybe people aren't going to believe that it's actually legitimate. Maybe people will think it was like a one-off, 1 year type of thing. But I think he's top 2, no doubt. I don't think you're even going to make the argument to take Tyreek Hill over him. So it's crazy how I think he was like a 5th or a 6th round pick coming into this year and just blew up out of nowhere.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be going up in drafts. I don't know, especially if Rodgers and Devontae are paired together, if I'm still comfortable taking Kupp over him, just because Devontae has been so consistent and so dominant over the last few years of fantasy. But
totally
I can say that Cooper Kupp's time, if he continues to do what he has been doing, even if it's not, like, let's say he does like 85% of what he did this year, I still, but he does it on a consistent basis. I still feel like he can be a number one drafted wide receiver in your in your fantasy draft. Depending on
100%.
depending on how many people you have in your draft, easily could go first round, mid first round too, depending on.
Oh yeah, I think he's a lock for a first round pick going into the next year.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts on him. Jamar Chase, I feel like he's definitely going to be moving up in drafts as he should, because he has proven himself this year. People are going to be worried about a sophomore slump, but I mean, that's
not happening.
So, yeah. Other than that, we are going to be, I think, moving on here to, let's see here. The next category we had here was our tight end. I don't think nobody had anybody playing any. So
they were all out.
We can move on to our next slide here. Whoops, that's our last slide. Kicker defense, nobody had anything there. So, I mean, like I said, we only had our running backs and our wide receivers playing. So that was pretty much the whole story there. Final standings for it. I came out on top, 443.36 points. Cassie coming in at second place at 443.31 points. I will be Venmoing her $20 for second place, and I will scoop up the rest. So that's a nice little.
Must be rigged, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I will say that I did feel kind of weird being the guy who won his own tournament, but I mean, when you only have
other people just be better. I mean,
7 players. I mean, not that I'm complaining about. I'm very happy that I had 7 people join our little online thing here. I'm hoping for more people next year, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I play the game fair and square, and this is kind of how it goes. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Be better.
Yeah, I mean,
knock Walters out if you think you can beat him. Yeah. I mean, more people join next year and show them up.
Absolutely. I mean, I think these little games here that we're gonna try and do, and these little activities that we had throughout the season this year, you know, with our streamer spotlights and stuff like that, our stream teams. Those are just ways that we are gonna want to involve our listeners next season. So if you guys want to come kick either of our butts in fantasy football,
good luck,
and sign up and participate. So let's go. Before we get into our Super Bowl reaction, Jack, do we want to go over any Discord discussion? Because since we snubbed them last week,
I believe we just had Al's of last week, correct?
We also had a very, very important question from the Urban. Let's see here, Urban Bigfoot. He asked us last week. Let's see here. Pull it up here. I got it right here. How do you guys feel about the song Baby Shark? Is that quality musical media? Jack, we're going to start with you. What do you think about Baby Shark? I feel that we should do not play that anymore. That's how I feel. We definitely won't be.
I just meant people in general, not just us.
Well, so first off, these Q&A questions are not football specific. And since they are not football specific, it's essentially an AMA. And when we open up AMAs, it's essentially going to be, you might get questions of this quality caliber, which is okay, because sometimes these questions that are meaningless and
much like Baby Shark.
It opens up it opens us up to the internet, and they can see inside what makes us tick, and what our jams are and what are definitely not our jams are. So if you guys are part of the Discord, seriously, that Q&A channel is literally AMA. So if we like the question, we'll ask it, or we'll answer it, and if we don't, well, get scammed. So that's all I can say.
Fair enough.
All right, moving on to a football question by Audio Al. Audio Al asks, thanks Audio Al, and thank you Urban. Please keep keep asking us questions for sure. Why couldn't Stafford do anything with the Lions? Were the Lions that much worse off than the Bengals were pre-Joe Burrow? So he's asking, were the Lions worse with Matt Stafford, or were the Bengals worse before Joe Burrow got there? That's part 2 of his question. Let's answer part 1 of his question though. Why couldn't Stafford do anything with the Lions? Jack, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's tough because we're gonna nitpick here and obviously talk about like, well, Stafford did have Megatron, but I don't know that I could name another Pro Bowl or even halfway decent weapon that he had for a long time. I mean, it was a lot of insignificant tight ends, not much in the way of receivers. Now he had Golden Tate for a little bit, but didn't do a whole lot or move the needle there. Running game was very abysmal in Detroit for years. Several years. I honestly couldn't tell you off the top of my head who the best running back was in Stafford's career there. Coaching, I think, is the biggest part of it, though, to me. I think Zach Taylor is a very, very good young coach. I don't think there were a lot of quality coaches in Detroit for a long time, and their defense has kind of always been abysmal. So I feel like Cincinnati's defense, while they weren't, or I should say the Rams defense, I mean, obviously is amazing. Having Cooper Kupp, and then I know Woods was lost, but replacing with Odell, who's probably one of the top 5 second wide receivers on a team in the league, just from like big playability or from like scheme fit, what they wanted him to do. I think those weapons are a lot better. I think they have 3 running backs that could be a running back 1, like a decent option on any team between Cam Akers, Sony Michel, and Darrell Henderson, all pretty solid. Just like overall a much better built team. So I think obviously you can't really compare the Lions to the Rams, but Stafford moved to the right situation for him. And then as far as the second part of like quick thoughts of Stafford with the Lions versus Burrow with the Bengals, I still think that the Bengals team is built pretty decent. Like they've got a lot of their key players are on young rookie contracts, so they're saving money. Their defense was serviceable, even if it wasn't top end. I think it was still better than most years in Detroit. Having elite offensive weapons. Mixon, I would put money on being a better running back than any running back Stafford had in Detroit. And then getting to throw to your guy, Burrow to chase. I mean, it's huge. So I don't necessarily put a knock on Stafford for not being able to get it done with that garbage dumpster fire of an organization in Detroit. So I guess that's my scattered 2 cents on it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, I'm pretty much in lockstep with everything you have to say. I wouldn't say I paid super close attention to Detroit. I just knew that, it was, I would have to say, mainly a lack of talent, not just on offense, but on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can necessarily, blame coaching or front offices for that part, or if it's literally just Matt Stafford not being able to. I wouldn't say he wouldn't care, but I just things are obviously different. Like, at what point do you think he thought that his team was literally going nowhere ever? And not saying that he didn't try, but like, do you maybe some of that focus or maybe some of that drive? I mean, you have to be realistic at some point. It's like my team last year was in last place in the division, and we really didn't do much different in the offseason to get that much better. So,
Mm-hmm.
as someone who is an ultra competitive person, but also has to have the brains to know, like, we ain't gonna be winning this thing.
Yeah, I think it was very clear that Detroit was several years away from doing anything. It's not like they were like a team that was missing a few key pieces and just needed to get like the right breaks. Like they're several years away from even being able to be considered like a good rebuilding team. So I don't think they were even going to like be a contender to maybe sneak in as a wild card team. And I think that's why Detroit was okay with him walking away too and like trading him to the Rams. I think they were like, listen, like we might as well get something for him because otherwise you're going to have a good quarterback with a terrible team for the next handful of years. Let's just full steer into the rebuild. But yeah, I think I agree with your point about more so just Stafford feeling like he had a little bit to prove, because I think he's been a very underrated quarterback for years. Like, he's never like the top couple of quarterbacks season after season, but he's always consistent. He has been mostly durable for his career. He is capable of putting up the big stats and like making the big plays, but I think he doesn't get enough credit for like the plays that he does make. I think there's some, like, even in the Super Bowl with the no look pass thing, like, I think he is very, very capable, and I think there was a little bit of an edge for him to be like, you know what, like, I'm better than this. Like, if you put a decent team around me, let alone a super team with the Rams having a lot of veteran pieces, like, I think he just wanted to kind of show people that he didn't want to be known as just like a constant loser through his career, because I think he is more capable than that. So
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I point out to people that I'm not saying that Matt Stafford didn't try at all in Detroit, or
no,
he
yeah,
didn't have that fire that he needed to bring on Sunday. But I think,
but
to
just a
your
little extra
point,
motivation
right? To your point, it's like, I'm going to a new city. I'm going to a new team.
to his hometown too.
Yeah. So like, there, I can see Matt Stafford kicking it into an extra gear for this past season. So that's kind of, my thoughts about it. Again, it's got to be, I don't know if I can blame coaching or if it's essentially the front office. It's between one of those two for not being able to
A little bit of both. Yeah.
get him support on the field. So,
Mm-hmm.
um last half of this question, were the Lions that much worse off than the Bengals were before Joe Burrow became a
Yeah, I
member of
kind
the
of answered
Bengals?
my thoughts on that. So
Okay.
you can weigh in if you would like, or if there's anything else on it.
Let's see here.
But long story short, I think the Lions were much worse than the Bengals. Had good pieces in play.
Yeah.
At least they had some.
Yeah, I mean, at least with Dalton, you can make the playoffs and be embarrassed in the playoffs. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
definitely say that the Lions were much worse off as well. So, all right, that's gonna wrap up
All
our
right.
Discord discussion, guys. If you guys want to join our Discord, it is going to be in the show notes. Please, guys, we want you guys to ask these Q&A questions. Also, if you join our Discord, you'll notice that there is a channel called the Waiting Room. If you guys ever want to come on and ask your question to us, voice to ear, instead of, it wouldn't really be face to face, but still, hop on in, and we would love to have you come in and chat with us briefly. All right, Jack, we are going to be getting into it, the meat and potatoes of our podcast. We are going to be talking about the Super Bowl. And first off, I have to ask you, I know it's not here in the notes, but I'm going to be asking it anyway. What were your thoughts on the Super Bowl halftime show?
I was very excited coming in, because obviously, like, nostalgia and growing up, you love all those guys.
Correct.
And girl, Mary J. Blige. Credit to her too. I think that it was very, very divisive. I feel like all I've seen on Twitter is either best halftime show ever or that was terrible. So I'm like, there's no middle ground. Shocking. We're America. We're not agreeing on everything. Who would have thought? I think my 2 cents are, the music sounded phenomenal. Like, all the performers sounded very, very good, but I was a little bit like, as far as the show or production side of it. Like, I remember in recent years, there's probably a handful of ones as far as like the stage and the props and the choreography and like different things that were much, much better and more enjoyable to me. But I think the music and like the audio in general was very, very good. So I guess take that for what you will. But I wouldn't say, like, personally for me, I wouldn't call it like best all time Super Bowl halftime show. I think, like, as far as the concert, it was good, but I liked a lot of like other recent performers as far as the background and the production quality or the performance, whatever you want to call it, words that I'm trying to think of. So that's mine.
Okay, so you make a good point. First off, the halftime show, when people talk about it, for me, is if I think it's a good halftime show, I ask myself, was that entertaining? And absolutely, that halftime show was probably the most entertained I've ever been. So Does that mean it was the best halftime show ever? Um, Maybe, sure, if that's how you want to define it. Other people like yourself would say, was that the best Super Bowl performance, halftime performance ever? And I will have to agree with you there and say, because of all the things that you brought up, the choreography, the lighting, the visuals, that was, I think, a lot left to be desired. But I think you hit the
Mhm.
nail on the head when it came to the music and the audio production of it. Last year, I really, really loved The Weekend. One problem, I could barely hear what he was singing because they did not have the audio levels set correctly. And for people who like to listen to podcasts and music, are you really going to be that entertained, or are you going to want to continue to listen to something that you cannot hear? So,
Agreed.
but I will have to say I was really impressed with the visuals with The Weekend last year. This year, the sound was absolutely phenomenal. I could hear everything crisp, clear, the vocals, the music, everything was perfect. Um, I was absolutely the most entertained by a halftime show I have ever seen. Absolutely. I know it wasn't super flashy and there wasn't a lot, but I just loved the music so much. It was awesome, and I could hear it, which was fantastic.
That's
Some
key. Yeah.
some people, especially from Minnesota, say, "Well, how can you say that that was the best halftime performance ever? What about Prince?" All right, I respect Prince as an artist. He is way more talented than I will ever become, and he will forever be remembered as someone who has a lot of talent. That halftime show, even though it was a spectacular halftime show, that his music to me, and you can clip this because it's going to be controversial.
Uh-oh.
Um, he has good music, but a lot of his music just doesn't flow with me. So,
It's more
the,
chill. It's not necessarily like a rager, like get the people going kind of thing.
even on, I mean, because like there's other music that I would rather chill to than listening to Prince. It's not my jam. I don't know what to say.
Sure.
The guy is talented. I'm not taking away anything from that. Point being, this halftime show that we had this past Sunday was more entertaining to me than the Prince halftime Super Bowl show. And so for me, I will
Interesting.
say this was the most entertaining halftime show I have ever heard. So people can absolutely hate me for, pissing all over Prince's legacy for halftime shows, but it's my opinion. So it's fine.
Fair.
All right. Let's get on with the game. It was after what it so let me ask you, for right after each team had their first drive, what
Hmm.
what were your initial thoughts on how is this game going to work out?
I was very surprised because I mean the Rams did score first, but they didn't look amazing by any means. So I was a little bit surprised. I expected them to kind of dominate earlier than they did. Um, it was a very like low scoring, slow starting game. So I feel like there weren't as many like right off the bat big flashy plays that I was expecting, I guess. So um, expected the Rams to come out firing more, or for the Bengals to try to like seize the momentum right away, which we'll get into. They tried to do, but yeah, it wasn't like a shocking like holy cow, blow the lights off, here we go type of thing.
No, it wasn't. And for I know it's not always the case, but would you say that most of the time, like if you have a competent enough offense, your first series or your first drive that you have, it's usually worked on throughout the week, so so the players know, what their
This
assignments
is
are,
what
what
we're starting with.
the sequence of plays and stuff is going to be. So would you say that knowing all of that information and having it planned and worked on throughout the week, would you say that there is a higher chance of them to be able to score points in that first drive than any other drive in the game?
I would still say no. I still feel like it's a lot of, making adjustments, and the other team is there for a reason. The other team's going to have probably a good defensive scheme queued up for, like, okay, this is what they like to do, or this is what they're good at. So that, combined with, I think, the jitters of people just being, especially younger guys, like being in the Super Bowl for the first time, I think it's more of a tendency for people to start slower. So I feel like it's more like the game kind of gets figured out and broken plays happen as the game progresses.
Would you say that the offense, maybe not scoring points, but the offense in general on the first series has the upper hand over the defense?
Um, I would go defense probably first. Just for the same reasons I mentioned. I think defense is
Interesting.
more likely to start out and not have to maybe do a lot while the offense works some of its kinks out, so
Okay.
to speak. That would kind of be my 2 cents on it.
Okay. I'm kind of the opposite on that, actually. I would think that
Yeah.
the offense would have more of an opportunity to do more. Point being, after seeing both of these offenses their first drives go 3 and out, and if you're the Rams, you went four. No, I'm sorry. If you're the Bengals, you went 4 and out.
Bengals, yeah.
Um, I really thought to myself that this is just going to be a defensive struggle of a game. It's going
Hmm.
to be whose offensive line or whose defensive line is going to hold out the longest. And by the end of the fourth quarter, obviously it was the Rams. But I was scrolling through Twitter, and I actually posted a lot of tweets during the Super Bowl. Um,
Hmm.
I was going through it, I think yesterday, and I saw that Paul Charchian had a tweet, and let's see if I can. I think I did. Here we go. Paul Charchian tweeted, and I quote: "Anyone else get the feeling a dozen teams could have beaten either the Rams or Bengals in this game?" And this is my reply to this. I said, when I read this, I interpret this as, since neither team had a few huge offensive numbers, these teams aren't the best teams left. Um, which I just feel like is wrong. Like I do feel like both of these teams absolutely deserved to be there. I went on by saying this game was a defensive battle, and after both opening drives, I thought that the best defense will win this game, not the best offense. Would
Hmm.
you would you would you agree with me on this one, that this game wasn't the tempo was more dictated by the defenses rather than the offenses of this game?
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of what I expected coming in, was the defenses were going to decide the game more so. So it makes a lot of sense. That's usually how it goes in Super Bowls. But yeah, I think defenses can just have a bigger impact, especially in these key games like this.
Okay. Let's talk about the defense real quick. Were there any defensive players that you thought really stood out on either team? Like, do you think that they were game changing?
Not in the way that you mean, but as far as the kind of the opposite effect, Eli Apple for the Bengals would be my take.
Yeah, we can get
Uh,
into Eli
he is
Apple a little bit.
he is he is yeah, the corner, as far as like people that affected the game. He was getting burned on almost every play, and I think was kind of the guy that the Rams tried to key in on, so to speak. So he was a big decider. Obviously, Aaron Donald's always going to have a huge effect, no matter what game it is. So even if he wasn't making the plays specifically on paper early on in the game, he was getting double teamed and triple teamed. So I think that opened up things more, and he was getting a lot of pressure. So he's always huge. Jalen Ramsey was a little bit of a surprise. He did not have a lockdown game like I was expecting. He got torched kind of on a lot of plays, actually, both the T. Higgins questionable face mask touchdown issue, but then a lot of plays for Jamar Chase as well. So not as many standout defensive performers as I maybe expected, but a lot of the game was impacted by defense.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, I the players that you mentioned were the players that I was going to mention as well.
Well, yeah, okay,
So I mean, I don't really have anything to add to that except
perfect.
for Aaron Donald just showing why he really deserves to be a Super Bowl champion, and we can get into that
Absolutely.
in a little bit here, in just a little bit. But I do want to talk about offenses as well, because the offenses, even though it wasn't, how do I put it? It's not that it wasn't electric. There were definitely electric plays, but like I said, this game was dictated by the defense. So if people felt like it was kind of boring or there wasn't much going on, it's because these defenses were playing really, really well. But there were a few offensive players, especially on the Rams side, who absolutely was dominating, and that was Cooper Kupp. Jack, I see you have some stats put up here. Why don't you tell us about how well Cooper Kupp did in this game here?
Yeah, so he ended with 8 receptions. I believe that was the over-under was 8.5. So shout out to the Vegas odds predictors once again. 92 yards, and the key was 2 touchdowns, including that game-winning drive at the end. So pretty tough to stop, especially once Odell Beckham went down with the torn ACL, I believe, in the second quarter. You could tell the Rams definitely focused on Kupp, and although it wasn't easy for Stafford to get him the ball consistently, he really took over. He won Super Bowl MVP, I think, deservingly. Stafford had a decent game, but those couple of costly picks probably took him out of contention for me. And I think Aaron Donald probably would have been my second choice, even over Stafford. But Kupp just doing what he did all year, consistently making plays. He didn't have any like drops or bad plays in the highest moments. So really, really just was the driving force behind the offense.
Absolutely. I'm going to echo that with Cooper Kupp absolutely deserves to be the MVP. OBJ, until he got his knee injury in the second quarter, which we'll talk a little bit more about here in just a second. For me, if he would have played this whole game and the Rams would have won, for me, he would have been the guy who would have been Super Bowl MVP. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he was looking real good.
Yeah.
Agreed. He was looking real good. I don't know if he necessarily would have completely outplayed Kupp, but I think a big part of Kupp doing well was obviously having OBJ being out and having him kind of be the only other option. Odell did score a touchdown early, and he was trending towards looking like they wouldn't be able to stop him in that game. So I think we would have seen probably a couple more big plays out of him, and he probably would have been more in that like 60, 70 receiving yards at least. Like it wouldn't have surprised me if he ended up breaking 100 in the game, because with them having to focus so much on Kupp, I think he could have probably been open for a couple of deep shots that Van Jefferson wasn't able to come down with. I think Odell would have had some chances on that. So would have been more exciting. There probably would have been like an amazing Super Bowl highlight play for us to talk about with a crazy catch of his. But yeah, it would have come down between those guys, and Stafford probably would have had a little better game too, even.
Talking a little bit about Stafford, Stafford, in my mind, absolutely was nowhere near MVP quality status, whatever you want to call it, pedigree for that game. As soon as OBJ went down, there were a couple times where he would just keep trying to force the ball downfield to Van Jefferson, and it was almost predictable. Not predictable, but like you could just tell that he was trying to make something from nothing, and it really cost him, because I think was both of his picks that he had, was it to
at least one was
Van Jefferson was a target for at least one of them. I can't remember who the other
I think the other one was a tight end where like he threw it a little bit out in front of him, and the tight end reached for it, and it went off his hand, but the tight end kind of did like the
bounced off his hand. That's absolutely right. Yep, I remember that.
He like pushed it up and like served it up on a platter. So obviously not Stafford's fault.
But. Absolutely, it was a gift. It was a gift for the Bengals to get that. So yeah, I just felt like Stafford was kind of falling back into some of his old ways of trying to force something that's not there, and it cost him. So for me personally, would you say that Joe Burrow had a better day than Matt Stafford?
Burrow didn't have like a huge day either, but obviously he was getting pressured on a lot. So I think his day was tougher. I think if you asked me between the two, I was more surprised, I guess, on Stafford. Still had a good game though, because if you take away that one pick, that's not really his fault. Like his stat line is still pretty solid with 3 touchdowns and only 1 pick instead of 2. I expected Burrow to have to throw the ball more to keep up and like keep them in this game. He really didn't a ton. Obviously, he technically probably he only had one touchdown because I know one of the passing touchdowns was from Mixon. So I mean, if you look at his stats and he had 2 instead of 1, I do think Burrow probably had a slightly better day, especially if you take into account the fact that he's got Aaron Donald breathing down his neck every time. But both of them, I think, were good, but not great. It wasn't like we walked out of this game going, "Oh, either one of them dominated, and like they're the reason for their team winning." Blah blah blah.
Yeah, no, I
wasn't taken over by a quarterback like it has been in recent years, for example.
I 100% agree with that. The quarterbacks were not the reason why these games were won and lost, in my opinion. Like we said before, it was all defense. Let's see here. Oh, I wanted to quickly touch on the OBJ torn ACL.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Peterson went to Twitter during that game and said, "This is why the Super Bowl needs to have all grass fields." Now, if I remember correctly, there are only 2 stadiums in the NFL that can actually take like real grass and roll it over their turf stadium. One of them's Arizona. I don't remember what the other one was, but what are your thoughts on? I know we discussed this a little bit, but what are your thoughts on grass versus turf?
Garlic in the Discord has had opinions on this, so I can let him weigh in on Discord now after that injury. But I feel like it's easy to point out, like hindsight wise. I mean, obviously, if a player gets hurt, you can then be like, "Well, we should have had this." And like, but if he didn't get hurt, are we even talking about it? I mean, it's not like there were any other major injuries caused by it. So yes, I get the argument, and yes, like the impact and like more. I think Garlic even mentioned this of like it's more likely to cause like soft tissue issues and like ligament damage and stuff like that, just with like the jarring hits on knees and everything. Do I think we should have to require it for the Super Bowl? No, I think it should be more of like if we're going to require it for the NFL period kind of thing, because why should it be like, oh, only if you're playing in the Super Bowl do we care about your knees getting injured? So I think it's tough. I also heard literally just today when I was listening to some more analysts talk that OBJ had an injury or like was dealing with issues with his knee coming into this game where they were already concerned about it being slightly injured. And obviously he was playing through it. It wasn't like to that level, but there's reports out of his camp saying they likely were going to have to do some kind of a cleanup or repair surgery on his knee, regardless of this injury. So obviously the injury made it much worse, but yeah, that kind of, I guess, takes some into consideration too. So it's like, it's a big difference if he came in totally healthy and it was a freak accident versus he was playing on an already injured knee and it just kind of went the rest of the way. So I don't know. Like, long story short, I think it's easy to say hindsight 2020.
I agree with that. We don't know for certain if the turf field was exactly what caused his ACL to tear. What we do know is that turf fields do lead to these types of injuries. And I, for me, when I saw it live, when you saw OBJ go down, he wasn't hit, I don't believe, at least when the tear happened. And so
Yeah,
when
he
you
wasn't.
see him fall
He just
down,
planted.
so first thing I'm like, okay, non-contact injury. He's holding his knee, screaming in pain. That's definitely got to be an ACL tear. Speaking to tears of their tendons, I know what a non-contact injury feels like, and it definitely looked exactly like what it was. So, that, I mean,
Yeah.
just for that. Also, I don't know that much about botany. So my question is if every stadium that was built was required to have a retractable roof, could you have an open air stadium throughout the week and then on game day be able to have that stadium closed so that you could have a natural grass field plus keep the fans comfortable in cold weather situations. I don't know if any of that would work, but I mean, it's obviously not going to happen. They're not going to force all the NFL teams to who that have a covered stadium to put in a grass field and
Right.
make their stadium a retractable stadium. So, but I like I said before, I do feel like there needs to be consistency across the NFL when it comes to stadium fields. Whether turf or natural grass is the answer, that is just way out of my league, and I have no idea. So,
Agreed.
all right. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on with this before we move on to our next before we moved on to our
No,
next topic?
no, I think that's all I had.
Okay. Oh, I want to talk about let's see here. Let's talk about the running game real quick. The running game
Boy.
was absolutely atrocious. I think even by both teams up until the second half. And where I really noticed it turn around, because I think the Bengals felt that they were forced to do it. Was it the third or the fourth quarter where Joe Burrow got wrapped up and he had to limp off the field? I think it was in the fourth quarter, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
it was close to the end.
But the very next drive, you saw that, and this is one of the things that Joe Burrow does really, really well. Joe Burrow is able to take the ball, and if he doesn't get his first or second read, or if he's being blitzed or heavily pressured, he's able to run out of the pocket and extend the play. And after you saw him walk off, he essentially reminded me of the play style of Kirk Cousins, because he wasn't running around. I think he even had a knee brace on underneath his sock, if I remember right. I think I saw. Well, maybe he had that the whole time, but I was looking at a close up of like one of his of him when he was on the field in the huddle, and it looked like over the knee that was in question. I think he had something on his knee, under his sock, and under his pants. So I don't know if that's true or not. I'd have to go back and take a closer look, but definitely he relied on Joe Mixon in the fourth quarter. And I think once they finally committed to the run, the running game for Cincinnati looked much better than it did earlier in the game. Both teams running was not good majority of the game. Thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I expected it to be flipped coming in. I talked about expecting the Rams to shut down Mixon 100%. He still had an all right game. Like, getting 70 to 80 yards is pretty solid against the Rams, but I was not expecting the Rams running game to look as bad as it did. Like, Akers led the way, and I think he only had like 23 yards. So none of them really were able to do much, which didn't help Stafford out when he did lose OBJ. But I guess the one thing I'll say as far as Mixon, like, especially on some like key plays, I think it was, well, especially on the last like 4th and 1, I know, when they had P. Ryan in there instead, who can't even be bothered to dive for the football. But they had Mixon out of the game. Was it 4 separate third or 4th and 1 situations where the Bengals didn't have Mixon, who's 225 pounds. He was a Pro Bowl running back this year. He was one of the top running backs in the league. And all 4 of those times they ended up not converting. So it's like, I get P. Ryan being a pass catching specialist, but Mixon had his best receiving season of his career this year. Was still pretty solid. He's able to do it. Is my point. He's not like a guy where you have to take him out because he's a liability and he's only a goal line back. It's not like Arizona where they take out James Conner to put in Chase Edmonds. Like, you could get it done. So not having him out there to at least make the defense like squeeze in and expect the run, or just to give him the ball and have him have a better chance of getting 1 yard going forward than P. Ryan. Like, it really surprised me. And this was all towards the end of the game where it's like, why are you not using your guy? Like, that was shocking to me, especially as a Joe Mixon fan personally.
Not even being a huge Joe Mixon guy, I was more impressed with him this year than I was last year. But what in the hell are you doing? Like, what are you? You are 3rd and 1, and you're going to have Samaje Perine come out to try and get you that yard. Are you insane? Are you literally dumb? Why would you not use your number one running back who was probably built better for that type of stuff? I'm assuming, right? I mean, he is your bruiser back there in Cincinnati, right?
Yeah,
So
100%. It's him. And
it just doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make
no, it
any
does not.
sense. Why would you keep him off the field, especially late in the game? You give your best players the football to make the play. Samaje Perine is not your best player. He's not even your top
10.
Yeah. Ugh, God, it's so frustrating. To Joe Mixon should have been out on the field for those plays, and
Agreed.
it's so dumb. I really feel like the coach really just shot himself in the foot terribly there.
Agreed.
The Rams running game looked absolutely freaking abysmal. It was terrible. I was so sick of seeing Sony Michel out there. Cam Akers, was he injured most of the year or part of the year?
He was up until like basically the playoff run.
Yeah, so I can understand why Cam Akers wasn't really in the best form. He was probably still sore, maybe still not 100%. But I'm also not going to take anything away from the Bengals defense. The Bengals stepped up their defense, especially their defensive line, and they played their asses off. And so I'm giving more credit to the Bengals defense than I'm going to put the blame on the Los Angeles running backs. But yeah, the running game for the Rams was just absolutely piss poor. So
agreed.
Yeah, so next time, please use Joe Mixon, especially in those short yardage situations. That's why you're paying him the big bucks. I mean, do you not want him to be there? Like, if I was Joe Mixon, and I'm sorry that we're going over this again. If I'm standing on the field or if I'm standing on the sideline, it's 3rd and 1 for the third or fourth time, and we don't convert. Do I look over at my coach or my offensive coordinator saying, WTF,
what are you doing?
Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
Why am I here? Why am I not out there? Like, it literally makes no sense. But I don't know. I didn't play football, so there must be some big brain reason that my tiny brain just can't fathom. So,
Yep.
But moving on, let's talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk just a little bit about T. Higgins outproducing Jamar Chase, which I believe you did predict, didn't you?
Correct. Yep. I said that on Twitter that he would have a better game. I expected it to be based more on Jalen Ramsey shutting down Jamar Chase. But yeah, I was expecting T. Higgins to kind of be the reason that the Bengals would either win or be in the game. And he definitely stepped up. I mean, he only had 4 catches, but 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. He technically outproduced Cooper Kupp, which is pretty crazy to think about. Just didn't get the credit as much because their team didn't end up winning. So shout out to him. He did a really, really good job and almost was enough.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun watching Higgins for sure. Let's see here. We just have a couple more things. According to JWoww, and we're going to give Jordan credit for this. He says here that there have been 8 straight losses for the Super Bowl team that has won the coin toss. That is mind-boggling to me. I can't believe the coin toss has that much of an effect on the winners and losers of a football game. Jack, do you have any quick thoughts about that?
No, I mean, it's crazy. I don't really have insight because it's kind of just like a random fact. But Jordan did say that when we were watching the game, he goes, well, it's already over. Rams win. Bengals won the coin toss. And I'm like, if this does end up happening, we have to talk about this. So I just had to mention it. It's just crazy. So I'm sure it'll be something that gets talked about every year the longer it goes, and we'll see how long this lasts.
Cool. All right. LAR, they won the Super Bowl in their home stadium for the 2nd year in a row. Tampa won it for the first time ever in their home stadium last year. Any quick Twitch thoughts on that, or is this something that we are going to be seeing a lot more of?
Congrats on the Cardinals for winning the 2023 Super Bowl because it's in Arizona next year. That's all we have to say.
Okay, hold on one sec.
Never happened before.
Yeah, okay, sure. Let's I don't know
And now
if that's the right one.
for the first time ever it happens, and then back-to-back times it happens, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever gonna happen ever again. Well, I wouldn't say that, but sure. Let's see here. Where is my? Did I even do it right? I don't know if I did or not. I think I did. Yeah, I think that was the right button. I can't hear it, but that's fine. Let's see here. Let's talk a little bit about the penalties for a little bit. According to Pro Football Talk, Ron Torbert. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Can you give me
Torbert? That sounds fancy.
Torbert? Yeah, I'm feeling fancy. He says that there was no grab and twist when it came to was it T. Higgins on
Jalen
Ramsey? Yeah, that's right. Is he blind?
It looked pretty clear to me. I was very surprised seeing it live. I don't think the camera really cut over in time for me to notice it, but looking back on replays, I was pretty shocked that they didn't call anything.
Replay will be able to show you anything, but even like when it was in live in full motion, fast, whatever you want to call it, full speed, to me, like I knew that there was a hang up there with the defender, and his head, it looked, the positioning looked weird. I couldn't tell right away, but like it didn't look right. So one of the things I've heard is that when you're training to be an NFL ref, one of the things you really need to pay attention to is the face mask and the turning of heads. If you notice that someone's face is literally turned around from their shoulders, that they're most likely being face masked. And so I don't understand what the referees were looking at. Now, I'm not singling out Ron Torbert. I'm just saying the whole officiating crew. You're telling me that nobody saw that. Okay. And
agreed.
To make things worse, which really pisses me off even more, because if somebody in his ear said, "Yeah, you guys really messed up. You guys missed that one." Making another bad call to make up for the non-call before, so things are evened out, affects the game even more, which they shouldn't have done. And to me, from my perspective, the refs swallowed their whistles for the first 3 quarters of that game, and then all of a sudden, when LA is on the brink of losing, black helicopters, the refs decide that they just want to throw out all the yellow I mean, there was like what, 4-5 penalties in a row. I don't know if it was that many, but I mean, there was one series.
There was a handful at the end of the game, though.
Yes, it was absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand it. That holding call was ticky-tack at best. And I'm not even like, I don't even care that the Rams won. Like, I had no dog in the fight whatsoever. Cringe. I shouldn't say that.
Totally agree.
But still, there is no reason why. And I don't even know if that's the reason. For me, it's just the first thing that I thought of. That guy is that officiating crew is trying to make up for the botched, missed face mask penalty call, which pisses me off even more. What are your thoughts on the lack of penalties called, then the plethora of penalties called at the end of the game?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they were like making up for it necessarily. I think I was enjoying the fact that there were so little penalties called in the Super Bowl, because that rarely happens where penalties aren't deciding it. Do I think that there should have been as many penalties at the end of the game? No, probably not. But I don't know that it was necessarily tied to itself. Like, I think it just kind of went that way, and it's unfortunate that it's towards the end, and that they missed a call or two earlier. But yeah.
Overall, what were your thoughts on the officiating of the game? Were you satisfied?
I thought overall they did a really good job. If it would have been that same amount of penalties called in the entire game, but they were just spread out more and not towards the end, I don't think we would have talked about it as much. So I think it was the blown face mask touchdown call still would have been talked about. But beyond that, I think I was just happy that the penalties were on the lower end. And the reason that it's more of a spotlight is just because they all happened towards the end of the game. So
for me, and I don't know if I'm seeing this correctly or thinking this correctly or not, but like, let's say there wasn't the missed face mask penalty, and there was still the ticky tack holding call. I would be like, I don't really know, but I don't think I would necessarily be up in arms as much as I am about the ticky tack call because of them missing the face mask. If the face mask wasn't there, I think a lot of people aren't as pissed off, except for people in Cincinnati. They'll be fuming for years to come, thinking that they got their Super Bowl taken away from them.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say on it except for the fact that I thought the refs, for the most part, did a decent job. I do feel like they impacted the outcome of the game at the end of the game, and that's somewhat frustrating. And I feel like in those situations, unless it's extremely blatant and very obvious, let the players play. That's kind of my thing. I thought that was kind of a let the players play type of hold. Because we saw all game that it was a physical game. So I just thought it was really ticky tack for them to call it at the end. So that's my final thoughts on the penalties and the ref crew. So I don't think I have anything else with that. So I think that's pretty much going to be wrapping up our episode here. Jack, is there anything else that you would like to well, if you would come back to the old camera screen so we can finish
I'm
this
still here.
bad boy.
My dog was needing to go out, so I'm still here. But no, I think we covered a lot of it. I think, like we said, overall, enjoyable Super Bowl. I'm glad it was close. Shout out to both teams. They were both competitive. And
you there, buddy? I think
But yeah, I'm here. But
okay.
Yeah, just that glad that it was a good overall game. Congrats to the Rams, and exciting finish to the season.
Shoot. Right on. Cool. Let's see here. Shoot. Let's take that one off. I don't know why that's on. Okay, my bad. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought it was a great game. Like I said before, it at some points people thought it was probably boring, but that's because the defenses were playing really, really well. And yeah, it's just it was a really good Super Bowl. I really liked it. I enjoyed it from start to finish. So I don't think I have anything else left that we want to say. I would like to thank everybody for coming out here and checking us out. This is going to be our last in season episode. So we're going to be taking a few weeks here to we're going to figure out what we're doing for off-season content. We have talked a lot about it on air and off air. We just haven't fully committed to the direction that we are going. And so we'll be taking the next couple weeks here to be able to do that. And when we figure it out, we will absolutely be getting our pod scheduled here. I'm hoping to have like a pod in like 3 weeks. So somewhere around the middle of March or so. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. Yeah. So I just want to say thanks you guys for an amazing fantasy football season, for you guys coming out, watching us and everything. We really, really do appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. I'll give some individual shout outs here after on the post pod after our outro is all done. I don't know if I have anything else. So, Jack, I think, let's see here. Just gotta go over here real quick. All right. And start this up. Jack, it's been a phenomenal season. I've loved doing this weekly. It's been absolutely great. So thank you for all your hard work this week. I really do appreciate it. And for all of your hard work all season. So it's been awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you too, man. It's been fun. Excited to see what our first like real consistent off season looks like. So yeah, we'll keep people posted. Follow us on Twitter. We'll talk on Discord as more news breaks, free agency, rookie draft, stuff like that. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
All right, that will do it for us, everybody. You all have a great night, a great week, and we will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Good night, Jack, and good night, fantasy football fanatics.
Goodbye. Good night.
All right. Okay, everybody. I just want to give some shout outs to you guys here. Let me give me 1 second. I just got to mute my headphones here. There we go. I just want to say thank you to everybody who has checked us out this whole season. I'd like to thank Dova for hitting up us in the chat. Thank you very much. I'd also like to say thanks to Face Esquire. I see here he has been lurking in the channel. So much thanks to him, and I appreciate what he has done participating on this program this year. He has done a lot of great work when it comes to the Fantasy Football Hacks podcast. I know that there's a new episode that they put out last week, so make sure you go check him out. You can find him on Twitch at Face Esquire, and go check out their podcasts, Political Hacks and Fantasy Football Hacks, which can be found on all of the major streaming platforms. I also want to give a big shout out to people who have been supporting my stream and, shouting me out on their streams as well. So like Praying Mantis Princess, I want to give a big thanks to L. He's a couple of times asked me what my Twitch handle is, and I've given it to him, and he's found out that he is still following me. So thanks, L, for continuing to follow me. I want to thank Audio Al for asking questions almost every week in participating for the content of this program. I'd like to thank Garlic Johnson for all of his work that he did. He put together an amazing draft review, even though it got me copyright stricken once, but it's still fantastic. And the questions and just the interactions and stuff that he's done with this program has been absolutely fantastic. I want to thank my buddy Jack for all of his hard work that he has done as the co-host and the note producer and now social media manager on this show. Lots of love to him. I want to thank Praying Mantis Princess for giving me lots of love and shouting us out and interacting with our chats as well. There's just so many people I can thank. It's really remarkable. All the love and support that you guys have given us. So thank you. If you guys enjoy this program, please share my name on Twitch. We're trying to get to affiliates so we can get some followers and everything like that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much gonna do it for us tonight. So I want you guys to have a really great night, and we will catch you guys again here soon. Please join the Discord if you guys would like to continue our discussions in the off season. You guys have a great night. Bye-bye.
a run. Cooper Cup around the on an end around, he picks up 7 yards for first down, and from there, with a couple other mixed in here,